Toleration, be the love. Before pride and exaltation, be the love. Be the love.
You are listening to Be the Love, transcending through the shadows into a higher state of consciousness. We are souls on the journey, opening up the conversation to heal, awaken, and connect ourselves and the planet to a higher vibration of love frequency. It starts with you. Everything you need is within you. This is your time. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez, and we are your co-hosts at Be the Love podcast. Thank you for tuning in and ascending with us. Hop on board the Ascension bus.
I'm Lara from Light Post by Lara. I'm the Tigers of the Light.
This is Brad Panopoulos.
Hi guys, this is Nina Sauer.
This is Dig with Sacred Fire Arts.
Namaste. My name is Istola Joy Davy, and you're listening to Be the Love podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Be the Love, transcending through the shadows. I am Stacy Musial.
And I am Sam Fernandez.
And we are your co-hosts and souls on the journey. And thank you so much for tuning in this week. And if you've enjoyed listening to our show, we'd be so grateful for a 5-star written review on iTunes. Reviews really help the show become more visible and spread the word to others. And if it feels safe for you, I'd like to invite you to take a moment to get centered with us. I'd like to begin by inviting you to take a beautiful cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth, releasing anything that is keeping you from being present. And take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in calm, peaceful, loving energy, and breathing out anything you are ready to release. And take one more breath in through your nose, breathing in light and love, and breathing that light and love and sending it out to all of humanity, remembering that you always have your breath to come back to. So today we welcome Gila Nehemia back to our show. Gila is an intuitive divine channel. She has dedicated her life from a young age to sharing her light through her poetry, books, videos, and conscious collaboration. She channels her words from source to heal, guide, and open up the creative gifts to transform lives and raise human consciousness. As a shamanic healer, she channels through nature and utilizes its inherent healing properties to heal herself, clients, and loved ones. She holds a certification as a sacred circle facilitator and provides support and divine transmissions. She believes we are all on this earth to live our divine mission and assist each other in our spiritual, emotional, sexual, and mental growth into oneness. She has also co-authored a few books about trauma and healing. So welcome back, Gila.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stacy and Sam. Thank you for inviting me again.
Absolutely. It's so wonderful to have you here today with us again, and really excited to jump in and hear about what you've been up to since our last interview. So you mentioned organizing a new anthology, and so I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about that project and what that's been about for you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm really, really excited about this. We actually submitted it to some publishers right now. So this anthology is, the tentative title is Who Am I? Transmuting Silence into Sovereignty. So it's basically about, power relationships that have had an imbalance of power, specifically in the house, like with parents or with a spouse, or even like a father-child or mother-child relationship. And the idea is, like most, we talk about our experiences, but we also bring in the ideology of patriarchy, like looking at it through that lens. Because I feel that beyond the fact that we talk about men are superior to women in terms of when we think of the word patriarchy, it's about a hierarchy of power. And it's been systemically fortified over time. by a variety of different things. We could talk about race, we could talk about gender, we could talk about all sorts of things, but here we're focusing on trauma and abuse, and how it's I feel, or we feel, that it's been, patriarchy has supported that paradigm to exist instead of something else where we're trying to break it down. I feel like it just continues to push it forward because we're trying to get into, we don't talk about egalitarianism. We don't talk about like having a balance of power, or balance of energies. We talk about someone having more power than us, and us, like, the typical idea of like, the underdog suddenly gaining power. But what about us all having equal amounts of power and allowing ourselves to exist, coexist together within our own power? That's never been a line, through media, through family relationships. It just, as far as I know, it hasn't existed until maybe now, where we're having this collective awakening.
Yeah, that sounds really beautiful, because I think there is a new energy coming into our world, and we're becoming more and more aware of that, where the divine feminine is on the rise, and we're trying to balance those energies into that balance, that equality. Like, what does that look like to coexist together and recognize that we are all sovereign? We all have, this beautiful, powerful energy that we can flow together. So what does that look like? What does that mean?
I think that's still to be revealed, honestly. But I think that as we are, both, however, no matter even if you don't identify with a gender, the more that you're stepping into your own self and realizing there's no validation necessary, you can just be, and you can think, and you can share whatever you want, in the strength that you are supported. And I want to just explain that from my perspective, because personally speaking, and even some of my clients, like, we felt forsaken, especially in these very traumatic events. Some of them can be very dire. And it's, and I think everyone has levels of it. Like, everyone has levels of neuroses, but, when we even, we don't like to think about it, but in actuality, it's very challenging. And so, but I think a lot of people feel, or at least I felt, that I was forsaken by God. And I feel like that's the first relationship we have, even before our parents, is this real, like, feeling that we've been supported by this higher force. And, because of tragedies, at least in my own life, I felt like, there really isn't anything out there. I just got to deal with reality. And that's really harsh. It just isn't fun, and honestly, I was watching Wisdom of Trauma. It was a film that featured Dr. Gabor Mate, and he's a medical doctor from Canada, and he's done like obstetrics to like, I forgot what they call it, palliative care. And he talked about the medical profession as like only focusing on biology and really not seeing the full picture. And so that's kind of where I want to come, it's kind of what I'm trying to say as well. It's like, without seeing the full picture of who we are as beings, it's really difficult to navigate this life. It's a challenging place. And I feel like, whether you want to call it mind control or patriarchy or whatever word somebody wants to use, is listening to this right now, really to examine, like, where are you in that paradigm? What do you think? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, how do you connect? What makes you feel secure? I think that was the biggest thing. Like, I think from all of us, at least in this anthology, we didn't feel secure in ourselves, which is why we got into these difficult relationships. And then finding that security again has pushed us into moving into sovereignty and wanting balanced partnerships, because we realize we deserve it. It's our birthright. And that's the difference. I think that we may have known that as children, but somewhere along the way it went awry. So coming back to that, but I feel like, I think that you guys may agree, like, we're in a historic time, like no other. And God or spirit or the universe, however you want to call it, is in co-creation with us to heal the planet and ourselves.
Yeah. And a lot of really, really good things you said there. And one thing that really hit me was being forsaken by God. Because I felt the same thing when I was getting brought up too. When I was brought up Christian, and I was brought up with a vengeful God. God's going to punish you if you do this. God's going to punish you if you do that. And I was also brought up in a very broken home as well. And so, yeah, I remember, one of my earliest thoughts was, not why does mom hate me? Why does dad hate me? Or whatever, why are they being mean to me? It was, why did God put me in this family? That was my first, like, why would you do this to me, God? What did I do? What punishments, like, what do I have to, attune for my sins, or, whatever. And, like you said too, throughout generations and generations, I mean, back in the 50s, of course, there was men were the workers and women were the caregivers, and just that's how it was. And it has evolved greatly since then. But another thing that you said that really sparked me too was the perception of God is changing. There's still, I know there's still a lot of people that believe, the God is the vengeful God, the God in the Bible, the smiting God and all that. But I think a lot of people are starting to turn to the God is love, and God is us, and God is a piece of us. And when you think of it that way, and like you said, like God is changing with the rest of us, that we are all sovereign beings. All are sovereign beings, God's goddesses, like everybody. And to me, that feels like the ultimate equality. Is not only are we equal with masculine and feminine, and not only are we getting there, but we're also equal with divine. And there is no food chain, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's just very, and I really like how simple you put it. And for me, it's a very refreshing perspective, and I think it's really needed right now. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I really feel it didn't really hit me until I was in this program, and I and the the facilitator shared that, and I was like, whoa, like that was where I always kind of went awry. I was like looking for a partner to keep me safe, or a job to keep me safe, and then I realized, wait, it was like my own unfolding to realize, no, nothing outside of you keeps you safe. You keep yourself safe because you believe that you're safe.
Right.
That's kind of it. You are magical because you are. There is no other. Nothing has to be at the end of that to end the sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to recognize that that the sovereignty does come from within, and it's never an external source outside of ourselves. And recognizing that we truly have the power to create our reality, to come back to our bodies, to connect with ourselves, to really trust ourselves in this space, and recognize that, yeah, nothing outside of us can make us feel safe. I just love that, because there's so many times where we look outside to relationships, right? To, I know in the past, like maybe looking outside for me, like the masculine, I wanted a relationship that like felt safe, but the truth is, like, it's not there, because I'm already, sovereign. I'm already safe. I don't need anything outside of myself, but maybe, friendships and connections that create and complement the energy that can flow together, rather than that idea of completion, because nobody else outside of you can complete you. And especially looking at outside as a woman, or as a feminine, the masculine, the patriarchy, like coming back to that idea, that's not something that is there to complete. It's there to complement the energies that we have, so we can really flow together. And I just love that idea. And I've been, that's something I've been coming into my own sovereignty in the last 10, 15 years, just really building that and strengthening that that feeling within myself and coming into alignment with who I am as a person, as a being, as pure energy. So
yeah, that's super important. And I love the words that you use, like create and flow, because I feel like that's what we are, like in the very, if we just take out like our bodies and, any kind of form, like we're energy, and we're always creating, and the creation is what lives, it's like our, let's just say typically our kids, but it's also like, anything that we do, just the words that we use or paintings or whatever it is, like the creation lives on. If we remember any famous artists, we remember what they created. We don't really even know who they are. We remember, I still remember Picasso, and like images come into my mind, or Mozart, and I have sounds that are coming into my consciousness. So I think like that's where it's at, but I feel like, even though my father, let's for example, loved art, that was really never going to be my profession. I had to go like study something else, that was going to make money, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's like, where's the passion? Go where your passion is. Because I think that is what's going to sustain you in the long run. It seems like it's not, but if that is enough for you to feel alive, like what makes you feel alive, coming back to that and go there.
I agree. I think that there's so many times when, we get taught, especially as children, oh, you want to do that, that's not going to make you money. And so you get suppressed and pushed down. But when you really come into that place of passion and there's something that interests you, the universe is going to support that, because you are now like doing, I believe like what we're here to do. When you feel like you are in alignment and you tap into that flow, that creativity, the universe will support that.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, how many people do you see that are, CFOs, CEOs, have all these really high corporate jobs and are miserable? They're miserable. I mean, when the stock exchange crumbled during, Prohibition, and people were literally jumping to their debts because, of, this, whatever they stressed out for so long just completely crumbled. They had nothing to fall back on. And that's, to me, that's a little scary, that is a little scary. And, like for example, my dad worked at a meat packing plant for over 30 years. He hated that job. Absolutely hated that job, but he felt, it was the only job that he could have that could sustain, a family or whatever. But my dad was actually a musician. He loved playing guitar, he loved singing, and he loved playing the harmonica. That's what he was passionate about, and it's totally like Stacy just said. If you follow your passions, the universe will provide. Why are so many people living off grid now and living completely self-sustainable? They're growing their own food, they're doing all this, and some of them don't have employment. They're literally living off the land, and those are some of the happiest people you ever meet. And part of it is because they don't have the stressors of corporate America, but the other part is they're doing their passion. But in that, it's also terrifying to follow your passion, because and this is something that actually Stacy and I have talked about before. When you work in corporate America, it's been around for so long that you think it's so stable, that's the stability, that's the sure thing. Go for the sure thing. But don't go for your passion, because you don't know what's going to happen. And fear of the unknown, I think that's, for me, I know it's true, but I think it also stops a lot of us to go after our passions.
And I think really the pandemic has opened that up for a lot of people, because all of a sudden people are taking, going within, they're having to reflect on their life, and their workday has been shortened. They're not like in that, 80-hour week grind. And so a lot of people are stepping out of that And so I think we're seeing that shift into passions and into people just really opening up to what they truly want to do that will make them happy. And I think more women are also becoming more, into business owners or stepping into that and out of the corporate world as well, which was really awesome to see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think also, women who might have children also, it's very challenging. And I've talked to some, it's very challenging to like, have time for your kids and have these high powered jobs. I know it was for me when I was doing that. And until I was just like, it's not I'm stressed out. I'm going to get sick, it can get that bad. But then I realized, like the CEOs or whatever who are totally in tune and inspired and like love their work, like those are the ones who are using their intuitive, guidance that are just like, maybe reinventing the company or, whatever, like giving people time off. I don't know. But that's the kind of business owner I want to be, to really empower people and if they need to go do something else, go do something else. But like, how can, and I feel like that's what at least that's what the people who I'm connecting to are into. Like, how can we get empowered? Even leaders, like I'm on LinkedIn, and like, how can leaders, leaders are actually part, if they're not empowering the people that they're working with, then they're not a good leader. And it's important because if you're a leader who nobody, really feels inspired by, you're not going to want to continue to work there. It's not in your best interest. And I think you're right. I think the pandemic has allowed people the time and the space to reassess and say, hey, is this really the thing I want to do? And so that's been a gift of the whole thing.
Absolutely. And I think, what you said about just being leaders, and, I think that whole idea has been shifting too, because it used to be there's, different types of leaders, and it's, stepping into the truth and being someone that you can inspire others by. It's not about dictation or, anything like that. It's about stepping into, how do we inspire others to make change and empower them to recognize that they too have the empowerment, the sovereignty within them to create the life that they truly want as well.
Right. I think it's giving them a voice, like I know when I was working in corporate America, it was like about deadlines, when is this product going out? Are we going to meet this or that? And it's like, and maybe we're having something going on at home or, and like, we never really talked about that. That was like, it was kind of like something we were shifting inside, that we wouldn't share. But I feel that it's totally important to bring it to the table, because if you're stressed out, your work is it's going to be reflected in your work. And so like, let's see what it is. Maybe it's even something someone's, the collective is worried about. Maybe we should share, I don't know. I'm just sharing that because I feel like we're not living in vacuums, everything's affected by everything else.
Absolutely.
So how can we, bring ourselves wholly, like come even as a whole to the table all the time by expressing ourselves, because I remember sharing something where, there's so many people who are quiet, like in the boardroom or in the conference tables or stuff, but some of them are very, artistic or have amazing ideas, and they just write it, in the emails because they're afraid to speak. But how can we give them a voice? How can we open it up for them to have a voice?
Absolutely. And I think the more that we truly step into our power and step into our voice, we are giving others permission to do the same, because now all of a sudden, people are maybe starting to feel more accepted for who they are. And I think that, is a big piece of it. Like people are, there's a lot of fear of judgment or, not being able to speak their voice because it hasn't been safe in our world to do that. And so when we give that, when we honor people's voices and we accept them for who they are, it truly, I think, opens up something truly magical so that they can finally step into that empowerment.
Yeah, I completely agree. And how can we create more avenues of safety? And I feel like all of the, the new things that are happening in the media, or the new kinds of books, personal empowerment and self-love and all that kind of thing that's happening. I think it's just really, really important, especially for children as well. you know, because they're still going through things in school. You know, my kids are, you know, like group, you know, group stuff, and it's challenging. You know, how do you become unique in the group, you know, and it's still the group pressure, and you know, it's a lot of stuff that hasn't really been worked out yet. Even for kids, you know, and I think as adults, if we can do it for ourselves, at least we have a space for the children, you know, whether it's in the school or at home, where they can feel safe to totally be who they are as they're finding that their own path.
And that's really where it starts, right? Is the children, because once the children start to feel accepted and safe, they're gonna, you know, also feel safe with their peers, and you know, it's going to be a ripple effect into that space. And that's, I think that's truly what we need, but we have to model that to the children too.
Right. I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah. So, so how do we like create that space? I mean, like what is like what would be like a couple examples someone could go into, you know, their workplace or their school or, you know, their friend group and start that process to really help others awaken to their truth?
I think it depends, but I think the very basic thing is to really be present with others, you know. And I think that in most societies, it's like there's always these greetings, you know, that we're like, how are you? We don't really care how you are. We're like, how are you? But really, I think that when people feel, and I know they feel with me, and even with my kids, it's like when they really feel like you're listening to them, you know, and you're really just hearing them. And even if you're silent, you're just sitting with them. That actually says volumes about your relationship, you know. And I think because it's sometimes really hard to communicate when things are happening to you, you know. And actually, it's I was reading The Body Keeps a Score by Bessel van der Kolk.
Great book.
I know, right? And I didn't realize this because I was like seeing myself and my clients when I was listening to it. And you know, it's like when trauma happens, you shut down, like nobody speaks. And so when you have someone who can just like you can be silent with, perhaps you might open up, you know. And I think to just be present in the moment and really just hold space for someone, it's, you know, it seems like it's a simple thing, but it's really, really, really important. I think that's the place to begin.
I think that's very profound. I mean, because there's so many people that don't feel heard, don't feel validated, and they, you know, are finding other ways to, you know, let that go or like be heard in maybe not healthy ways. And so, but I think you bring up a really good point too, is how much trauma people have, right? And so when we realize that most people are traumatized and nothing is personal, right? So it's nothing is, they're just reacting or responding in the way that they've learned how over, you know, over the years. And I think it, you know, can come back to that energy of the patriarchy, you know, energy, and not to, you know, like I think you said earlier, you know, not to blame or anything, just looking at it from an outside, deeper perspective. But there's a lot of generational trauma through the patriarchy, even, you know, feeling safe to be in the world as a female or the feminine. And, you know, and so there's a lot of that trauma that I think has manifested. And so I think, yeah, you're right. We need to really sit with people and really accept them and listen and just be silent sometimes. And that does do so much for people. I mean, just in my own profession as a psychotherapist, like, you know, that's sometimes all people really need. You know, it's not about the tools I can offer them. It's not about like, you know, I mean, I have some pretty cool tools that I love to use, but like, it's really comes down to the simplicity of being with someone and just listening and just being, just being open and present with them.
Definitely. And to kind of piggyback on what Stacy was saying, yeah, I know for me, you know, when I have sessions with, you know, with counselors or, you know, talking with somebody, and I've had, you know, a really rough day, I'm really thinking about something. And my old counselor, he used to joke about this all the time. He used to tell me that I was the counselor and he was just sitting back like, I'm getting paid to listen to you right now, you know, because more often than not, for me anyway, when I talk about things out loud, that's how I process. That's like the best way of me processing. It's better than like meditation. It's better than silent reflecting, because, I'm giving a voice to what I'm feeling, and I'm putting it out in the universe, and, and it loses intensity when you're able to speak it. So yeah, exactly like Stacy was saying, and like you were saying, Gila, one of the best gifts you can offer to somebody else is your time, is your space, is your attention, and yeah, and a lot of people, like Stacy said, a lot of people just want to be heard. I know for pretty much all of us listening, we've all probably been in a relationship and we've all had arguments. And in those arguments, one of us has said, "You're not even listening to me," and that's huge. Just to be heard, just to be listened, just to be acknowledged. And that does come, all the way down from our childhoods and from our parents' childhoods, from their parents' childhoods, because generation upon generations back, people didn't talk about their feelings, and Stacy and Gila, you guys were talking about the female and the feminine. Me, being a male empath, there's a lot of us out there, but we don't want to talk about our feelings. We don't want to talk about the things that scare us. We don't want to talk about the things that hurt us, because we were brought up, like we were saying, that men are they're the protectors, they're the providers, they're the ones that squish the spiders, they're the ones that chase away the monsters in the closets. And now that that's completely getting flipped on its end, I know I'm seeing a lot more male empaths and a lot more sensitive males come out, and there's no ridicule. They're being greeted like, yes, join us, be free. Let's all just be free together. And I think that that's amazing. And I think it is very, very healing. And, we've been talking about healing the traumas and all that. One question I had for you is, for healing our own personal traumas, how does it relate and how does it benefit in healing the planet and also healing the pandemic that we're in right now? Because we're getting, the second coming of COVID's happening. So how are we able to heal the earth and, the pandemic and all other outwardly traumas by healing our inward traumas?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Because I really feel like, everything's related, right? Like we actually eat from even though we go to a supermarket or something, we're being fed by the earth. And if we're not actually taking care of ourselves and in turn, almost like by default, the earth, like even as simple as littering, like if you're littering, there's a part of you that doesn't actually care about yourself. Because if you did, then you would think that everything that you are walking upon is sacred, and there is a space for things that are, that need to be taken out of your space, and then there are things that are, what sacred is and what we know usually what sacred is and what isn't sacred. So if you're going to really think on those terms, really take care of yourself. Let's just talk about self-love, for example. Maybe it's something a little more tangible. If you're going to take care of yourself, then you're going to in turn take care of others, because you know what it means to have that space for yourself. You know that you need to like decompress after work because it's just so much stress. And then you're going to give your children the time to decompress after school because they're having the stress. And, and then your animals, and then like maybe the land that you're growing your vegetables on, like it becomes normal for you to see things that way. Because I think that we've been, and I've also been a part of this, like we just see the earth as humans, like we're just talking to each other, right? But not the trees. But if I don't give my mint plant any water, it's going to die. Right. Like I see it droop and then I put some water and I'm like, okay, now it's doing better, and how can I get more into that or just have an automated system? But, that's besides the point. I think the point still lies that if I don't take care of like, myself and my children and then the plants around me, like my environment, then I'm also sacrificing not only myself, but also the planet. I feel like we're all a tapestry of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't play our part, it's not only we are losing or our families are losing, the entire planet is losing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I say to my clients. If you're not living in your soul's truth and purpose, you're doing a disservice, not only to yourself, but to the planet, because you have some magic in you that's here to like light up the planet. And you know it's there, but you're afraid. And I get that. You know, I'm here to help you, or whoever, you know, anyone that you're going to be resonating with is here to help you. And as you do that, you're not only going to be empowered, but you're going to empower not only yourself and, you know, Mother Earth, you know, or the planet. It's really this, you know, I don't think we lose sight that we're a part of a symbiotic, you know, we have the symbiotic relationship with everything. You just took it like a tree, and all of the organisms that are feed on that tree, including us. Like, then you're like, hey, if that tree wasn't there, maybe I wouldn't be breathing as well as I do right now. So I think it's super, super important that we I think we lose track of the big picture and we stay in the microcosm. But when you can expand that to say like, oh, if I love myself, I can love all beings. You know, when you get to that state, like, it doesn't matter that it's my child or my plant, you know, it's like, it's all the same.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because I think it does, you know, I mean, really, it starts with us, right? The internal, there is no separation. What is within is without, and we create our reality. We are going to manifest, and things are going to shift outwardly the more we shift inwardly. And so, and we are all one, right? So it doesn't matter what, you know, how you love, like if it, like you said, like, you know, whether it's your plant or your child, you know, everything is like, you know, love. And so, but it does start on that internal journey. We must go within and recognize that true love. And, you know, and my question, because you know, this is, I think maybe can be confusing for some people to like really, you know, what does this feel like between, you know, this love, this internal love that is, you know, that three-dimensional love versus that, like, truly what is the love that comes, you know, that into that five-dimensional reality of, you know, everything is love, and really recognizing that rather than putting love with boundaries on it. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really good question. And I think there's a lot of layers to that, actually. You know, I feel, and it's still a challenge, honestly, for me, but, you know, I feel like when I can love myself, and really anyone I meet, everyone is love, right? Everyone, whether you agree with them or you disagree with them, we're all emanating love. And when we can see that in each person, you know, out of kindness or compassion, you know, I'm really into Tibetan Buddhism. I was in, you know, a part of India, and I was just like enamored by these people as they embody it. But, you know, when I could see beyond the veil, you know, and allow myself to also not take a side, you know, I think that's part of the 3D matrix. Is like, you have to always take a side. You know, it's either good or bad or right or wrong, you know, like, what do you think, you know, but what if we didn't take a side, and like everyone got to do whatever they thought was okay in this higher vibration of love, you know, that they are like, we go back to what we said earlier, right? In God, if we're all loved by God, or God is within each of us, let's just go back into that. Okay, then you are God, I'm God, we're all God, whether we agree or not, disagree, doesn't matter. We're all gods and goddesses. So on some level, if we can come into that realization, then, you know, there's no, like you said, there's no separation. It doesn't matter if you're in Colorado and I'm sitting in Israel, we're having this conversation and we're vibrating now in that frequency of love. So, you know, it goes beyond like boundaries, yet it is still important to have healthy boundaries around us to understand, you know, so that's where it gets tricky, I think. But I think that, you know, we can have boundaries that can reflect what we do want, what we don't want. But at the same time, when we can go into that higher consciousness, we realize that we can live a different life. I don't know if that's clear, but I think you guys know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, so like it is, I mean, and it can be very abstract for some people, right? For, you know, when you're coming into these new concepts and like, well, what is this, you know, and what does this really feel like? And what does it mean to not pick or choose sides, and that duality that most of us, you know, our ego mind, you know, likes to have those different, you know, sides, and, you know, the three-dimensional relationships or three-dimensional, you know, constructs that we've all been conditioned to. And so when we can rise above that and tap into that energy, because it's all energy. I've found, you know, different things that really help me raise that vibration. And, you know, it's really, for me, it's like tapping into my heart frequency and opening up all my chakras and aligning them, and, you know, going into the quantum field by being out of my body. So not being like, I just got back a couple of weeks ago. It's probably been a month now. Joe Dispenza meditation retreat. I went to one of his advanced workshops, and we did 36 hours of meditation during like that week. And I was just vibrating so high because everything was so open. I was connected with everyone. There was 1,500 people, but we were all coherent in our energy. And, you know, I just felt so elated at that, you know, in that space. And it just showed me even deeper how much like power, empowerment that we all have to really reach that level and stay there, you know. But it does take work. It does take conscious effort to reach that state. And so I'm wondering, you know, what can we do now, like, to empower ourselves on a daily basis so that we can stay in that vibration and, you know, recognize when we're going into that three-dimensional reality? Like, what are some tools or some things that we can do to help with that process?
Well, thank you for sharing that. That sounds amazing, what you did. And Joe Dispenza is always a source of inspiration for me whenever I listen to him. And even when you were saying that, I just was reminded, like, if anytime we feel any kind of pain in our body, especially, you know, and we can go into that space of, for me, it's about visualization, you know, how I can visualize myself healed, and, you know, and then allow myself, you know, through my subconscious mind. It's almost like I use a conscious technique. Okay, how can I heal this? Show me the way to heal this. I don't know what it is, like, but I know that I can get there. And then it starts to happen, and allowing yourself to receive that. But I think it's that whole sense of what you asked, like, when we're conscious that we're thinking in a certain way that's not serving us, having that awareness in and of itself is actually a huge feat that we've accomplished. And so when you have that awareness, then you can decide, do I want to continue to think this way? Is this really serving me? What can I think that's going to help me? You know, I consciously do this now. I'm like, okay, that's not serving me. That's no longer my identity. This is who I want to be. So I'm not sure how I'm going to get there, but I know I can do whatever I desire. I know I have that capability. I can tap into my own power, basically, by thinking the thought that it's even possible. And so I would say that would be maybe the first step, that whatever you think is not possible, like, try or not try, actually believe that everything is possible, and push it slowly. I think to jump from, like, your, you know, so a lot of people I talk to, they want to publish their own book. And they feel that that's impossible. Like, oh my God, how could I possibly do that? You know, it's really not, you know, it's allowing. And so then I'm there, like, I'm just like you, right? I published my book. So I'll share with you the steps, but it's actually not even the steps. Everyone can figure out steps, right? You could go on Google and say, okay, what are the steps? Let me follow them. It's believing that you can. That's the first hurdle. Because, like, even in conscious relationships, believing that you can have a partner that you love and loves you. And it's not just like you know, like you said, it's not just someone completing you. it's like this higher level of consciousness that you can love yourself completely, and they can love themselves completely, and you come together because you desire to be together. I think it's just a new paradigm, but it's also the actual self-worth that you can have it. And I feel like that's the huge piece that sometimes people, even coaches, we don't even talk about that. We're like, how do you get to X, Y, and Z? Let's forget about going anywhere. Let's just focus on, getting back into like, it's even more than self-confidence. It's like this belief that we're powerful. Like you said, you're a powerful human being that can change anything on a dime. And you don't even realize that. We squander it thinking that someone's going to do it for us. Right. But in actuality, we're totally capable of everything and capable of having everything that we desire. It's our birthright even.
Absolutely. 100%. I think, and tapping into those beliefs, right. And recognizing maybe those were beliefs that were handed to us, or, maybe inadvertently, or, through childhood, through, interactions with people, but recognizing that it's just energy. And so when we can transmute that energy of that belief system, we can, really go underneath that and transcend that into new beliefs, into what do we want to truly believe now? I love what you said too about just the identity. That's not the identity I want anymore. That's not who I am. I'm growing out of that. I'm now tapping into this new identity, this new belief system. And, and being so aware that nothing ever like goes by your awareness, as Dr. Joe would say. And so like really tuning into that, the energy of the awareness of that, so that you can transcend. But it takes so much awareness, when you start going into those patterns, and but recognizing it's also a process. It's not going to happen overnight. We're human. We have to also play in the human world, the human realms. And, when we can go into recognizing our humanness, we can change our humanness to recognize that we have so much potential. We are unlimited with potential and sovereignty. And so I think it's just, recognizing, how much true change we can make no matter where we're at in our lives. I look back at my own life and I'm like, wow, I have like come so far. I am not even the same person. I have like shed it all. I've shed all my my layers, and I'm like, I still have more layers to shed, but like, I know it's possible.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm recording my audiobook, and it's so these are poems I've written like over 3 to 4 years, and it's like, wow, I was that person, because when I'm actually saying the poem, when I'm reciting the poem, like I go back to that experience, and it's almost like it was almost like yesterday. It feels like it was yesterday, but I'm not, I've grown. And even with the person I'm talking about, we both grown together. And it's just like, it almost seems like a dream, because I think that many of us might feel that way, like we wanted this something or other, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. And we didn't realize all the twists and turns that needed it to go there. And that's what I also tell my clients, like, keep the vision. I wanted to do this for a long time and it wasn't happening. And I just like, let it go. I was like, I don't know when it's happening, but then you have the opportunity and you take it. And I think that's the difference. When you become open and receiving, open to receive opportunities, then you see them everywhere. And it doesn't just benefit you, it benefits the people who are working with you as well. Everyone benefits. I think that's a change right now. We're interdependent. So the whole paradigm is shifting.
Absolutely. I think that's, great point. We're coming into a place of, it's not about me, the individual anymore. It's about community and how much we can work together, have these conscious collaborations, these connections, these conversations, these, ideas that can flow together, and what benefits me is going to benefit the whole, because we're all like in this together, and recognizing that truth. That's huge.
Right. And going back into creativity, like that's what I'm seeing happen. Like I'm going to be doing some full moon meditations with a couple of other people, and and I'm inviting someone to do some music for us, and it's like, but we're all in that same wavelength of wanting to work with the planet and wanting to raise our own consciousness, and so it's important to have that joint mission. Because I think that increases the vibration when you're going to be presenting it into the world, or even just having the idea to have it actually occur,
Absolutely.
And
tapping into all of our creative gifts and really bringing that in. I think that's another piece, that, as we were talking earlier about creating acceptance in the world, right? And so that alone, I think, when you can like invite someone in to share their gifts, that's going to light them up, and it's going to also ripple out to the world, and we're all going to be able to feel that energy together.
Yeah, I feel like it's really exciting times. And for anyone who's feeling like they want to do that, know that there's a possibility. It's allowing yourself to have that thought that you can have it. I think that the very basic, like that you're enough, that you're worthy to have such a beautiful life. You don't have to continue to suffer. I think even Buddha, when I was like in that Tibetan Buddhist place, I remember, listening or reading something that we're like, it's kind of, suffering is really a mindset. It's like when you realize you don't have to suffer, you're like, oh, I don't have to suffer. I didn't know.
Recognizing it's a choice. Everything's a choice, right? And exactly. We don't have to suffer. We can come into a place of like, love, and we can, recognizing that, okay, so we've got emotions and things like are going to come up, we have to go in and do the work. That's part of the journey. But like we get to like also choose happiness, and we get to choose joy and love, and these are all choices that we can tap into, and it's in recognizing that's energy too. So tapping into, what is the energy of joy feel like? Oh my gosh, when you feel that immense joy, and it's just like not only lifts you up, but then lifts others around you up too. And so recognizing that we have that available to us as well.
Yeah, totally. It's amazing.
So Gila, I'm wondering if you would be willing to share a meditation for our listeners.
Sure, I'd love to do that. So I would just invite everyone to close their eyes and to take 3 deep breaths with me, straight from your diaphragm, or even as far down as you can go, all the way up to your higher chakras, 3 times at your own pace. And I'm just, if you can just imagine that you are lifted from the ground about 20 feet or 20 meters from the ground, and you're just kind of suspended in midair, and you feel this warm light coming from your crown chakra, coming down to your crown chakra, and just going through, your third eye, your throat chakra, to your higher heart, your solar plexus, your sacral chakra, your root, and down through your legs, your feet, to your earth star chakra. That's about 12 feet below the earth. And just feel yourself completely in this loving space. We're just calling God to kind of put this gold shield around us to really feel that love, and really allowing ourselves to open up into that safety of our heart space, really opening up to the love. And as you're doing that, as you're just feeling that safety of being held, just allowing yourself to imagine that, of what that feels like. And as you're in that space, maybe you're in a specific natural space, or wherever you totally love to be, see yourself there. And as you're there, just see all of, like, for me, it's maybe a forest, and all of the beings are around me, supporting me, and like opening up to my own magic. Like we're all creating a symphony of magic together, and allowing me to sing, to dance, to just to be, reveling in my presence alone. That's enough. Feeling that you are worthy just because you are. Just to breathe that in right now. Breathe in the love of you. And even if there are any thoughts or feelings of resistance at this moment, know that that isn't the truth. The truth is the love that you are. The truth is the present moment. The truth is emptiness. Truth is that we're connected to all that is. I'm just feeling that at this moment right now. Knowing that you can always come back into this space, because this is always there for you when you become quiet and empty. You're connecting into your true divine alignment. And to not be afraid of the silence. The silence is actually your strength, because you feel safe in it. So reminding you right now of your own magic, of your own power, of your own importance. As you ground this into the earth, you are important. You are here to do something amazing, and to connect to that straight into your heart space. Your heart is connected straight into the divine. And whatever thought or inspiration or download that you might be getting right now or after this time, that is the truth. That is your calling. We're going to go back into Mother Gaia, deep in the earth, to bring in the light up to the soles of our feet, up our legs, to our root chakra, up through our back, all the vertebrae, all the little bones, to our shoulder blades, to our shoulders, our neck, back of our head, the top of our head, up into the sky. We're still suspended. And allowing yourself to truly feel connected to the earth and sky, as if we are the connection points. Feeling that love again. Allowing yourself to really hug that inner child within. The magic that you always knew, allowing it to open now. Just breathing that in for a moment. We'll take 3 deep breaths together. Imprinting that magic into your heart. And starting to remember that you're back in your rooms, sitting in your chairs, connecting to the earth, moving your fingers and toes. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Much needed. Just feel that flow, that vibration, just the connectedness.
Yeah, that was very, very good decompression that we were talking about, giving adults and children the space they need to decompress. That was a perfect example for me of being able to decompress. And it was funny too, anytime my mind started to drift, your dog started to bark, and I swear to God, it said, present. As it was barking, like, hey, come back to me. Like, okay,
dog. She does really work with me. We think that she's a distraction, but she's actually part of the symphony.
I know. And yeah, it totally worked. Because it's like, mind drifting, and then your dog started barking. It's like, oh yeah. It was awesome.
I love it.
For everybody that's listening, that was meant to happen. The dog barking, that was completely meant to happen.
part of the yeah.
That was awesome. Thank
flow.
You. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's part of the family. Her voice must be heard.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So, Gila, tell our listeners how they can find you and what you're currently working on right now.
Thank you. Yeah, so you can find me at gilanehemia.com. I have my own podcast, and I'm actually starting to put my blogs on my website. And I'm working on the audiobook that's going to be coming out soon by the end of the year. It's on Surreal Love, the book that I published in February. Kundalini Awakening Poetry, that is available on Amazon, both in print and in ebook, and on many online stores all over the world. So you can get it in both formats. And the audiobook, I'm still going to be looking into, but in most cases, I like to have very wide distribution. So I'll look into all different formats as well. And this book that's coming out, the book on patriarchy, Who Am I? Transmuting Silence into Sovereignty. I don't know exactly when that's coming out. We're sending that to publishers, but the projected date is going to be the end of this year or early next year.
Beautiful. And we can add all of those links to our show notes so people can find you easily. Well, thank you, Gila, for being here today and sharing your experience and having this beautiful, conscious conversation with us.
Thank you.
And
thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for listening to our show. Stay tuned for more episodes being released on Mondays at 5:55 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And if you've enjoyed listening to our show, we would absolutely love a 5-star written review on iTunes. And of course, if you have enjoyed, of course, please share the love by sharing it with your friends. If you want to support the work that we're doing, please consider making a donation to our show by visiting our Patreon website at patreon.com/Be the Love Podcast. And until next time, love yourself, love each other, and love the world. We love you.
Love you guys. Take care, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you.
We at Be the Love Podcast are honored to be supporting the Kamoti Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization in Uganda that is working to build a school that will promote and support healthcare, education, skills development, feeding the hungry, human rights, and environmental defenders. Their goal is to work with young mothers and single mothers, street children, and vulnerable families who lack nurture as they guide them to become productive individuals, which will lead to a productive generation. Please see our show notes on how to become a donor, mentor, volunteer, or sponsor.
Thank you, Heather Lynn, for providing us with your beautiful song to accompany our show, Be the Love. If you would like to learn more about Heather Lynn and her music, please visit her website at heatherlynnmusic.com. And thank you, Chrissy Grace at Leading Edge Productions for the beautiful design and graphics.
And thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we are Souls on the Journey. And thank you for hopping on the Ascension bus with us. And remember, there is always a seat for you.